Welcome to the information session about the Masters of Arts in Museum Studies. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the program and a little bit about the partnership between CUNY SPS and the New York Historical Society that is at its core, and then we'll answer questions at the end. I'm Jenna Copeland. I'm the academic program manager, and today we're fortunate enough to have one of our faculty joining us from the Historical Society, Nicole Mahoney. At the core of this partnership, really from both the visitor perspective as well as the employee and student perspective, is DEAI. This program focuses on equity and inclusion in all of its iterations. And the two institutions that are involved in the partnership are individually as well. So first, we have the CUNY School of Professional Studies, which was founded in 2003, but since 2006 has launched 30 plus programs, 13 of which are master's programs. We're not new to online pedagogy. The programs that the School of Professional Studies hosts are online, engaged, and most often asynchronous. We are Middle States accredited and joined by the New York Historical Society, founded in 1804 and often considered New York's first museum. It's really part of the fabric of New York. So these two institutions together really create a diverse partnership that focuses on cultural institutions and student engagement. So the program is a 30 credit master's program, a typical weight. There are 4 core courses that are worth 15 credits. That is because 3 of them are 4 credits apiece. They have an extra component that really dives deep into the topics at hand, and it uses the faculty at the New York Historical Society as well as experts and friends and family to really make those courses rich. Then students have 4 elective courses to direct the program towards their interests. We don't have formal tracks within the master's program, but students can informally create them. And then finally, the capstone. And I encourage you to ask Professor Mahoney about the capstone, since she's one of its faculty. Every semester we offer different courses, a different sampling of courses. We always offer our required courses, which are 600 through 630, and then we switch up the electives that we have available. All of these courses are on our curriculum page. You can go there, take a look, and actually read short descriptions of each one so you can get a better idea of what the content is. We have an amazing set of faculty. Here is a sample of some of our repeat offenders, some of our faculty who keep coming back. I always like to use Rich Shine as a great example of what the partnership between the Historical Society and CUNY SPS means. we require that students take a class on administration, finance, and the law, because we think that well-rounded students are more likely to do better in the workplace. And who better to learn about finance and administration than from the CFO at the New York Historical Society. He also happens to be a natural teacher, so students will occasionally leave this class to the end, only to find that it's actually a really useful class, and that Professor Shine is a really fantastic faculty person. We also have senior faculty from CUNY, including Kat Griffin, who teaches our curatorial theory course, co-teaches it with Margie Hoffer from the New York Historical Society. We have students with a wide variety of backgrounds. With BAs in art history, even chemistry, but the general humanities, English lit. Then we also have students who come to us from professional backgrounds that are within the museum world as well as aligned. So digital media, other cultural institutions, and as well as places like heritage professionals. So what are we looking for in applicants? It's a master's program. You have to have a completed bachelor's from an accredited university. We expect a 3.0 GPA or higher. We need official transcripts from every university that you've attended. So if you studied abroad one summer and got that credit through another university than the one you matriculated in, we need both transcripts. Letters of recommendation. These letters really need to come from people who have supervised your work. That can be in an academic setting if you still have those relationships, but for a lot of our students, that may have been a while ago. So a supervisor at work is another good option. What we really don't want to see here are coworkers or friends and family. We'll also be looking for your resume, as well as a personal statement. We do recommend in your personal statement that you include what you think you might like to do with this degree. That really helps us understand you better. No one's going to hold you to that at the end of your time with us, but it does let us know that you understand museum work to some degree, and you have an idea of what you'd like to do. Application deadlines, our priority deadline is April 6th. The benefit of applying early, if you're able to pull your materials together, is we'll review your application sooner, we'll make decisions sooner, and you can have your plans for fall. So, but if you need a little more time to say get your transcripts or the like, you can also apply up till May 18th. At this point, I think we're going to turn to all of you and try to answer some of your questions. Samantha's been kind enough to put a few very helpful email contacts on the slide here. For us, the Museum Studies Program, financial aid, and the Bursar's office, as well as our SPS website, where you can find additional information about the requirements of the program and the descriptions of the courses. Okay, I'll take this one. What are the options for applicants with GPAs under 3.0? That's an excellent question. We look at our applicants as whole people, not as just a GPA, particularly if it's been a while since you've undertaken your bachelor's and you've done a number of other things since then. What I recommend to applicants who are in that circumstance, take a line or two in your personal statement and let us know why we shouldn't care. You know, let us know what happened. Certainly we don't want personal details of your life, but you know, letting us know that you had a personal problem and had to withdraw a semester and it was very difficult to come back from. Just those few sentences will go a long way to helping us understand, you know, a GPA that's below what we're looking for. How many students do we accept each year? It varies from semester to semester. We have admission cycles both in the spring and in the fall. I think the most we have ever admitted in a single cycle was 50, but that's not necessarily a cap. If we have the space in the courses, you know, then and we have applicants who are interesting and who look like they're a good fit for us and we're a good fit for them, then we will try to work as many of them in as we can. Okay. Do you have course waivers for MA level? Okay. We talk about these in this context of transfer credits. We will consider 2 classes of 3 credits each, so a total of 6 classes for transfer, but only after someone has been accepted into the program and successfully completed their first semester. And the courses have to map onto existing courses in our curriculum. So we won't just take something that, you know, we don't have a contemporary art class in our curriculum. So that's not a course we would accept and transfer. This one is for you, Nicole. What are some of the general capstone projects topics you've seen in the past, please?
Thanks, Jenna, so much. And I'm so glad to get to speak to a really engaged and enthusiastic group of prospective students, as far as I can tell through the dozen or so questions that we have in the chat. So it's really wonderful to see so much enthusiasm for the Museum Studies program. I'll say just a few words about myself. I'm Dr. Nicole Mahoney. I have a PhD in American history, and I work at the New York Historical Society as the manager of scholarly initiatives and academic affairs. I've been teaching in the Museum Studies program for 3 years now, I think. And I teach a elective course on women's public history. Part of my responsibilities at New York Historical include work with the the Center for Women's History. And I teach a whole course on women's public history every fall. And every semester I co-teach the capstone course with Dr. Valerie Paley. We do that together. So I'm happy to talk a little bit more about the capstone. And first, what I'll do is start with a brief overview of the capstone course and sort of the general expectations and requirements for students who get to that point in the program. And then I will give a couple examples of some of the projects that students have developed as part of the capstone course. And I was just in a meeting with a capstone student about 20 minutes ago, so it's all very fresh at the front of my mind right now. So for the capstone course, which is the final course that you take before you graduate from the MA program, asks students as a group to develop a new museum or a cultural initiative from the ground up, from scratch. So you work both independently and as a team to develop a project, one large project over the course of the semester. And I think some students are intimidated by the group work portion of that semester. And I'm here to tell you that it is nothing to be worried about, and that many, many students come out, I think, surprised, enthusiastic, and feeling well prepared for what it is actually like to work in the field of museum studies and cultural institutions. And when Dr. Paley and I designed this course, what we tried to do was to mimic in a course setting as much as we could what our actual day-to-day jobs are like, not just the way that we work at New York Historical, but the way that we know colleagues in the field work as well. So there's an element of collaboration, but there's also an individual project that you will do. And of course, not everyone receives the same grade at the end of the semester, so you don't have to worry about that either. So we try to leave the format, I guess, of the capstone also quite vague, because we're encouraging you at the end of this semester to, at the end of the program, I should say, to truly showcase all that you have learned through all of your courses in the museum studies program, and to think about the expertise that you've developed over the course of the program, and then to showcase that expertise is really what we'd like to see in the capstone. So it's a true opportunity to sort of hone in on those skills that you got a taste of in another class, or on the other hand, if there's a field or an area of museum studies and the museum world that, like Jenna mentioned before, we don't offer a specific course on, the capstone is there for you as an opportunity to develop all of those skills and really take a deep dive into the research, the scholarship, the cutting edge strategies that are coming out of the museum world at the time when you're studying, so that you emerge from this program with a true expertise and skill set to present, as if you were doing this job in the real world. Of course, it is a hypothetical project. We don't actually ask you to build a new museum, but we do expect it to be quite realistic. So you do get that real world experience and asking yourselves all kinds of questions about what does it take to build a museum, but also what does it mean to be a museum, and how is that different from being a cultural institution? And does a museum need walls? These are the sorts of questions that we pose to you early in the semester that you've sort of been thinking about during the whole program, and then they're put to the test in this final capstone course. So it really is an exciting course. I think Dr. Paley and I love teaching it because we get new ideas every semester, and our students come with so much enthusiasm and so many ideas, and it really is quite different for us each time. So I'll talk about now very quickly a couple of the projects that students have developed for the capstone course. I don't want to give away too much, because part of what we want to test you on by the end of this program is your general understanding of museum studies and operations, and each sort of cohort comes with their own ideas of how those work. But we've had one cohort develop a climate museum on Governor's Island, which in fact came into being not long after the cohort put together that capstone project. We had another team that developed a digital initiative related to LGBTQ plus awareness and rights and education. We had another team currently working on a museum dedicated to teens and teen engagement. And they saw that the teen population generally is very difficult for many museums and cultural organizations to attract and encourage them to attend. So they've created an organization aimed specifically at engaging teens. And we have another group now that is working on a museum in Sleepy Hollow, New York, which is very exciting. And it's a museum dedicated to folklore, storytelling, myths and mythology, all sort of circulating around the Washington Irving tale of Sleepy Hollow. But their goal, of course, is bigger than that one story, and it's more about global storytelling and learning about different cultures. So those are just some of the ideas, and then perhaps the most stressful part of the capstone is in the final weeks of the semester. Students present their ideas to what Dr. Paley and I affectionately call the Shark Tank. And it is a panel of 3 real life museum professionals, philanthropists, usually, who serve on boards or as executive directors of various organizations. Those people are different every semester because we try to match them with people who have real expertise in the area that the cohort has decided to develop their project in. And then you pitch your project, and like the real Shark Tank show, the sharks evaluate your project, and they can either give you advice or suggestions on how to improve it, and they make comments on the feasibility and creativity of the project. Of course, this does not decide whether students pass or fail the entire MA program. I promise we wouldn't do that to you. But it's more of a fun exercise and a different way for students in the program to receive feedback from people who are in the museum profession outside of New York Historical Society. So that's a little bit about the capstone. And what I'll do now is just turn it back to Jenna, because I keep seeing so many questions and I don't want to talk for too long. But I'm also happy to answer more questions about the capstone project and the faculty at New York Historical if there's more questions coming in from the audience about that.
I think it might also be nice if, Nicole, if you talked a little bit about, we've had a number of questions about internships, which are not mandatory, but we definitely like to support our students in their endeavors, including that. Let me answer a few of the more practical ones, and then I'll turn it back over to you. What do students do who don't live near the school for the in-person museum portion of the coursework? Since the pandemic, we have live streamed and recorded, and we have not been able to be face-to-face in person. Our program is a little bit larger, and the New York Historical Society is a jewel. So we haven't quite gotten the health and safety things worked out. So I think we'll continue to be live stream and record for the near future. We do have a couple of courses that if students care to, they can do in-person kind of components. An example of that is the museum education course, one of the 4 credit courses, where students sign up to shadow to actually go in with museum educators at the New York Historical Society or another institution if they're not here in New York. To go in and follow programs that they're talking about in a given week. So if one week is preschool programs, then that would be the program, or adult education, then you would find programs that your faculty either helps you find or approves of, and you do that component in person. But the rest of it is kind of a live stream deeper dive. We focus on asynchronous, online, and equitable. So it's important that equity gets in there for students who are not here in New York, or who on Saturday morning have another commitment, whether it be taking their kid to to a baseball game, or whether it is, that they are museum educators themselves. Saturday's prime time. So there's a whole bunch of reasons why a specific time might not work, and we try to accommodate students in that regard. Does the student does the program have a practical component, i.e. Internship project working in a museum? We do not require it, but we do have a ton of resources, and we do make them available to students, including helping them apply for those particular opportunities. And some of them are with the New York Historical Society, and many of them are not. Many of them are with other institutions. Some of them are remote, some of them are in person. So there are a lot of opportunities in New York and outside of New York, and we do work with all of our students to get the experience that they want and need. I think Ari, I think I answered your question as well with that, but if I did not, please feel free to expand a little bit. Can you talk a little bit about the independent study, maybe some examples? Some of the places that our students have worked, they've been placed through CUNY programs, through the Cultural Corps, which is a large program that's run through all of that students from across CUNY participate in, and sometimes it's a smaller scale, like we have a number of students right now who are helping at the Rare Center, which is a really interesting new endeavor. So there are a lot of different kinds of opportunities. It depends on what you'd like to do. Museum educators are going to have different opportunities than people who are interested in visitor studies. So. I'm very grateful for this question, Michelle. What are we looking for in personal statements? I would say that the first thing we are not looking for is the introductory sentence of "I've spent my whole life in museums." We all have. That's why we're all here. We love museums. So it is important that you tell us why you care about this as a discipline, as a field. But we'd like to hear more about your interests and what you think you can contribute to it. Also, as I said earlier, if there are issues in your application, something is not exactly how you'd like it, your personal statement's a place to address that. Is there advising for shifting into applying for doctorate programs? Ari, for a lot of our students, the MA is a terminal degree, but we do have, right now we have one PhD, we have two PhD candidates, or I guess, yes, candidates who have moved on from our program to do a more intense look at some aspect of a field relevant to museums. And I know one of them is in history. Nicole, do you know who?
I was just going to say I can add a little bit for this because I advised both of those students during their when they were in, I think towards the second half of this museum studies program, they were starting to think about a PhD, and who better to talk about that with and ask questions than somebody who's been through it. So I was more than happy to talk about it. Also, I'm not sure if Jenna said this in the beginning and I just missed it, but Jenna also serves as the academic advisor to all the students in the museum studies program. So she's also a great resource But by the time students get to the capstone, many of them are thinking, well, what's my next career move? Is the PhD worth it? And I'm also more than happy to talk about all of those paths with students. So we have 2 students so far who have been accepted into PhD programs. One student was extremely interested in graphic design and the arts and pursued that as an area during the capstone semester and is now in a fashion design program. And the second student was extremely passionate about New York City history, particularly the gay rights movement around Stonewall and LGBTQ plus rights in New York City history. And that student is now in a PhD program at the CUNY Graduate Center. And I'm happy to talk more about, different academic paths. Like I mentioned before, I did my PhD in history and never actually took a course in public history or a course in museum studies, and learned everything that I know through job experience. So I'm happy to talk about all of those different, career moves and pathways, and help as best as I can to talk about different options. Often by the time students get to their last semester, and Dr. Paley and I are your faculty there, and we get to know those students very closely, working a lot, many times one-on-one. So we're also happy to offer advice, but it is something that students think about by the end of this MA program. For many, it's a career move. For some students, it's the beginning of a larger academic path. And, we certainly are here to help and support you and talk about all of those options.
Nicole, would you, I think you would be better suited to answer Jolana's question. Are classes a live session like this, or just assignments given via a thread? And what kind of interaction do people have?
Absolutely. So Jenna, I think you started this a little bit in that we do strive to make our courses as accessible for our students as possible. We know that we have many students, not only across the country, but I think we currently have a student enrolled who is in Japan. So there are students in lots of different time zones, lots of different states, lots of different situations. Many of our students do work full time. And again, we all have families and personal lives outside of what we do, in the classroom. So we try, I think, to make as much course content asynchronous, available online. But of course, like this very information center, it can be extremely beneficial to talk things out in real time with another person. And whenever our museum studies courses have online conversations such as this one, they're almost always, I can't think of an instance when they're not, recorded and then posted to the course learning site. So you have the opportunity to join the online conversation. But if you're in California and this ends up being some middle of the night time for you and it's not feasible, or it's the middle of the workday for you in a different time zone, or you just have another obligation, it's always going to be recorded and then made available on the course site on Blackboard. Although I shouldn't say Blackboard, should I, Jenna? I think we're switching. I shouldn't announce that to incoming students who might not be onboarded through Blackboard, right?
Well, I think it's going to be a little while.
It'll be a while, so I'm safe to say Blackboard now.
I think Blackboard will be our home for a little bit, at least.
The other opportunity to talk one-on-one like this, and I just came out of this before the webinar started, is office hours. So all professors will hold office hours at various times throughout the week. And office hours, I guess when I started college as an undergrad, I didn't go to office hours because I thought it was going to be just more school, more class, and that the professor was somehow going to drill me and ask all these questions about, the readings and the content. And it wasn't until years later that I learned that office hours should really just be called student hours. And they are designated times during the week when your professors make themselves available to answer questions to help you. right? It's not an extra test or quiz sitting in a Zoom meeting like this with a professor. It's really time. I usually bring a cup of tea. Sometimes my dog is with me. And sometimes I have students come and we talk about course content. Absolutely. Sometimes we talk about upcoming assignments and we'll brainstorm ideas together. Sometimes we talk about my tomato garden and what I'm cooking for dinner. And it can be very casual, relaxed time to sort of get to know each other. And then we can also address like concerns, comments, and talk more about course content. So that's another great way I think that you can really get to know your professors and have that one-on-one in real time connection that you might be looking for. At the same time, I don't want to give the impression that if you can't attend live sessions that you're somehow missing out on some part of the program, because that's not true either. In addition to office hours, professors can also schedule meetings by appointment. So if we all have the same work schedule, if you can schedule a meeting at a different time. And I would say almost all of our faculty are extremely generous in scheduling, meetings and times to talk to students one-on-one when they make themselves extremely available. So again, if you can't come to a certain office hours time or a certain practical component of the course, there will always be a recording, and then you can always have the option of speaking to your professor one-on-one.
Thanks, Nicole. Let's see. Someone has asked about a similar class at Lehman in the Anthro department that allows students to study different museums and create an exhibit at the end of the course. My background is in anthropology. I'm not familiar with this particular course, but that assignment, generally speaking, is not an uncommon one in and of itself, but it's how it happens in the capstone that matters. When students come up with their project, they not only have Professor Mahoney and Dr. Paley and Dr. Mahoney as their mentors, but they also are assigned appropriate people from the Historical Society to help them as mentors. So you get to work with people who are senior in their field, who are doing the work that you've chosen to do as your final project. And because it's a master's program, we do expect a little bit more out of folks than we might if it were an undergraduate. So, but Lehman has a great anthro department. So okay. How long should personal statements be? I think that the application itself has some type of built-in limit. Usually they're page and a half, somewhere in there. Are there any classes on archives and conservation? We actually do not have many classes that deal directly with collections in these ways, specifically archives. If we get applicants in who are looking for looking to really work in the archives or to work doing specific types of conservation, I usually reach out to them and talk to them, because we don't want students who don't want us. so if your interests lie outside what we can provide you, I'll usually reach out to you and talk to applicants and share what I know about other programs that might be better fits.
And I'll just jump in quickly, Jenna, if you don't mind, that while we don't have an entire semester-long course dedicated to archival collections or to conservation, we do talk about those topics in lots of other different courses. So for example, in my women's public history course, we spend an entire week talking about archives and archival silences and how different biases in archival collecting practices have sometimes left women's names and women's voices out of larger narratives. So we do talk about those things. And then again, there are semester-long projects and places like the capstone where if you have a really deep interest and want to spend more time on a specific topic like that, you can certainly take those semester-long projects or take the capstone course in a way that will help you develop those skills and that knowledge. But again, like Jenna said, if you are deeply interested in being a preservationist, for example, there might be a different program where you would get more of those hands-on skills. And certainly we talk about archives and conservation and preservation in many different courses. I know especially we have a new course on art and material culture at New York Historical, and they spend several courses in different ways and from various lenses and different approaches thinking about archive, building collections and then the space, time, resources necessary for conservation and preservation. But again, I think that if you are really interested in sort of archives, I'm thinking almost like an MLS, Masters in Library Science,
Exactly.
would sort of be the program where you were going to get all of that deep dive into cataloging and those sorts of skills. So while we do address it, and if that is something that you're interested in, we can certainly talk about it. But again, I would double check with Jenna to make sure that we're the right program for somebody who wants to become an archivist, for example.
And we do also teach a course on collections management, which is a little bit more of an overview of what one would need to know, um, rather than specific about dealing with fabrics or or challenging conservation issues. So we do have some courses that are focused on material culture, and as Dr. Mahoney said, uh, we do address the issues where they're relevant in other classes, but not as a focus. Would we be able to take a single course from the program instead of applying for the MA? Well, that is a it depends question. We do occasionally have space. If all of our admitted students in a particular semester and all of our existing current ongoing students have their spaces in their class, and we have extra space in a class, then we will take applications for that one um, for a single class outside of the MA program. But after that, that's it. So it's just the one off. Hi, Ari. It's okay for I don't think I exactly answered this question. How many applicants we get varies tremendously semester to semester. If I had a magic crystal ball and could figure out one semester to the other how many applicants we were going to have, I think it would be a little easier that time of year, but it really it depends. It really depends, and I don't mean to be evasive. The the course on collections management is currently an elective. It ran for the first time last spring. It will probably run again in the fall, and at that juncture will be retooled to make sure that it's running the way that we want it to. It matters to us that our courses address the topics at hand in not only a timely fashion, but also you know it, with the appropriate rigor. And after that, then we will likely put it into the or put it into the curriculum as an elective course. Takes a little bit more than that. You can't just cram something in. It has to go through review here, by other faculty, and then, course additions will then, get approved. So it takes a little bit of time, but for now we run it as a special topics course, um, and um, and address it that way.
Just jump in quickly and add that most of the faculty from New York Historical Society do have, we all have full-time jobs at the New York Historical Society. And on top of our full-time jobs, we teach in this program. And we do it because we deeply care. And we're really passionate, not only about what we do now, but about the future of the field. And we really see this museum studies program as, the sort of cutting edge of what's going to be next for the museum world. And we hope that many of you, or those of you who choose to apply, someday become our colleagues and that we get to work with you. And this is a really, exciting and thrilling opportunity for us at New York Historical to be engaged on a really groundbreaking level for, building a new, diverse, and innovative cadre of museum professionals. So I hope that if you have any questions, I'm happy to talk about my career at New York Historical. You can email the museum studies at sps.cuny.edu inbox, and Jenna will connect you with me there. And, I'm happy to talk more about not only the courses that I teach, but also my career, what I do at New York Historical, and how New York Historical, really engages with SPS students in the Museum Studies program. And I'm just thrilled that I get to do this every semester. And I look forward to meeting some of you. I think we have one more question, Jenna, about the collections management exhibition designs. I'll pitch that one to you.
That's okay. I was going to type an answer, but it's easier to just answer it. We definitely focus on the relationship between these two activities in museum work, and not just in the curatorial theory course and collections management course, but through a number of courses, and particularly in the capstone. So I think if this is the area of interest, it is certainly a place you can direct your time with us, if you're accepted, to explore more in depth, to explore more thoroughly. That's where those electives and skillful use of those electives can come into play. And that's also where Samantha can help as you're planning semester to semester, to figure out how to put together the best course selection out of our curriculum for you. And it's definitely an area where there's a lot of opportunity within the program. All right, if we don't have any other questions, then I'd like to say thank you to Dr. Mahoney for joining us, and thanks to all of you for taking time out of your evening. If you any other questions come up, we're happy to answer them.
Thank you so much, everyone. It's so encouraging and really heartening to see so much interest in this museum studies program. And again, I'm more than happy to answer questions. And I hope that all of you will apply. So thank you to Jenna also, and to Samantha for organizing such a great event.